I know that some of you are just like, what is going on? You don't mean it. Really? Chappy and Arnie are back on the air. I looked in the chat room a few minutes ago, and there was no one there. And now I look, and we've got Doug Boyle, Andrea, Lenny, Mal Powell, Rotorius, Guest Flora, but none of you can compare to the one on the other end of this call. The one, the only, Phil Chaplin. Good evening, Chappy.
What's up, brother? How you doing? Long time no talk.
I know. Where have you been, my man? I mean, come on.
Actually, that's not true. You know that. We talk all the time, but just not on air lately, huh?
Well, we gotta act like we hadn't seen each other. How about that for a minute? So Chappy, I got a few things that you mentioned, and I followed your lead, and I guess you'll follow mine a little. Let's talk about risers and fallers, and my favorite fantasy subject for the evening, closers. Are there any that you really trust? And I thought what we might do, Chappy, is you pick one and tell me why you trust him. I'll tell you why I don't. And then I'll pick one and tell you why I trust him, and you tell me why you don't. So you want to go first, or you want it to be me? It's up to you.
You know I want to go first, Arnie.
Play ball. I'm ready.
All right, so I'm going to start out with Felipe Vasquez. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Scratch that off. I'm going to start out with Sir Anthony Dominguez. Oh, crap. That's no good either, right?
Okay, hold on.
Last year's list.
The count is now 0-2, Chappy.
I'm going off of last year's list.
Hold on.
You mean to tell me AJ Minter isn't an option? Listen, in all seriousness, I bring it up in jest, but this is a very volatile position, right? So, as these years go on, you really have to start to talk about these guys and just break it down into two categories with closers. Who do you trust and who don't you trust? Okay? So that really narrows the field down a lot, doesn't it? I'm getting question marks from Lenny. Hopefully you guys can hear us. Please give us a sound check. That would be nice.
I'm showing you in red, so you're just as red as I am. So everybody should be able to hear you fine. Really.
Awesome. So, let's start out with one guy who I really trust. And I've seen this guy up close and personally. He lives really close, or he plays really close to me here. But how about Raisel Iglesias?
Okay, good start. We'll go there.
So what are his knocks, right? He didn't do well last year when he was asked to close multiple innings. That's fair. I'll give him that. As a ninth inning player, you would hope that a team like Cincinnati, who's invested heavily, would respect the wishes of a pitcher who wants to pitch at the end of the game. But what are we talking about with Iglesias, right? We're talking about a guy who's been nothing but rock solid outside of that one little glitch last year. And in all honesty, is about as trustworthy as you can get.
He was 3-12 last year. He had a 4.16 ERA.
Yeah.
He has a batting average against of 240, which among those closers with 30 or more saves, Chappy, 240, not too good.
Right.
So sell me some more. Why now do I believe in Iglesias this year, 2020? Tell me why. Give me something more to eat. Come on, you feed me.
Yeah, in all honesty, I believe in, again, the multiple innings thing. You really want to break it down, and you look back at his career stats from 15, 16, and 17, specifically in 16 and 17, you're looking at an ERA of 2.49 and an ERA of 2.38 in 17 and 18. You're looking at 28 and 30 holds, right? You're looking at 70-some innings pitched, so he's been consistent. He's been pretty healthy. Again, the Reds tried an experiment last year. It didn't work.
The thing that bothers me, okay, I like your argument. I will agree with what you just said. But here's the thing that really bothers me, and it's more of an internal thing with me. Remember last year when it was announced We may use him as a setup guy. We may use him as a closer. It's whatever we need. Okay, and what was his attitude?
It wasn't great.
He was whining all the way to the bank. And so I guess you heard me this morning as I bantered about the Astros and the cheating. But anyway, my whole thing is, give me a player who really wants to play ball. And that was my concern about Iglesias. And it was almost like as soon as the Reds started getting the Bowers of the world and trading for pitchers, I noticed Iglesias got a little bit better. But I need a player out there I can count on thick and thin when he's a closer. I mean, come on, that's the guy who's got to shut the door. I don't know. I got to come back to that one. Do I really trust him or not?
Can I refute one more time?
Of course you can.
Awesome.
This is our show, right? We can say what we want.
So why is it a big deal when Iglesias wants to close in the ninth, and he wants a specific known role so he can prepare and mentally get ready for the evening? But it's not a big deal when, I don't know, say George Springer doesn't lead off, or Vladimir Guerrero isn't in the 3-hole. Why is it different for the closer than some of these prima donna players? He's just a prima donna player, Arnie. That's all he is. The major leagues are full of them.
No,
right?
well, I totally agree with that one. Totally.
So how is that any different? And if you're saying that that's excluding you from keeping him in this dependable category, I would say you could take half the league out in doing that, right? Because most of the league is that way. So just to be fair across the board, that's why. And again, when you're looking at Raciel Iglesias, you're talking about someone who's not necessarily one of the top tier closers in ADP, right? I'm pulling him up right now. Give me 1 second. He's the 15th closer overall going at an ADP of, it looks like an average of 148. So, 154 in NFBC. That's the value. You're talking about the 12th round for what could be a top 2 or 3 closer, Arnie.
I got to reserve judgment. Let me throw one at you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't take Iglesias, and I'm gonna, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. If it's okay with you, Chappy, I'm not gonna talk about Kirby Yates. I'm not gonna talk about Aroldis Chapman, because give me Aroldis Chapman, give me Kirby Yates. I'm not gonna talk about them tonight. Okay, those are your guys that are gonna get picked, good or bad. Somebody in the league drafting is gonna pick these guys fairly early. It won't be me, but somebody's gonna do it. Agree? I'm looking for someone who's not going to get picked early. I'm trying to see if I got a value. And let me ask these questions before I give you my next player. How big a role is environment? Is the ball field? Is the team? How about comfort level when you're a closer, Chappy? Is that important?
You would think so, yes.
Okay, all right. And so we've got a player who I'm going to mention next who finally looks like he's comfortable in his skin, in his environment. Now, how about if I told you I have a closer who only, with his new team last year, blew 1 save while saving 23? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it, Chappy?
I'll hear more.
Are you still interested at this point?
I'm intrigued, yes.
Okay. What if I told you this reliever had a sub-2 ERA?
That's a positive.
Are you still interested?
Yes, sir.
What if I told you his K per 9 with his new team was over 14?
Not too bad.
And his whip was 1, an even 1. Not 1.15, not 1.27, but 1.00.
That's good.
By the way, let me just say, if I can pause for a moment, Aroldis Chapman's was 1.11.
Yeah.
So he's below Aroldis Chapman there. Aroldis Chapman, his K per 9 was 13.4. Aroldis Chapman, he's better than Aroldis Chapman there. He only blew 1 save, and his batting average against Chappie was 188, below 200. All of those numbers far exceed Iglesias. Would you agree?
from last year, yes.
Okay. So are you still interested?
Absolutely.
So if I told you this player's name is Ken Giles, are
I
you
was already on
still
his page.
are you still interested?
Of course I'm interested. I mean,
I like Ken Giles where he is now.
yeah, I agree.
And I think he is a bargain draft pick because Yates, Osuna, Hayter, Chapman, Brad Hand, Kenley Jansen, even Malpow, who's suddenly a Taylor Rogers fan in the chat room, probably all go before Ken Giles. And I'm saying, at where I can draft him, I trust Ken Giles in 2020 fantasy.
I'm a believer, Arnie. I mean, you know, the positives with Ken Giles for me are you got to love that young offense, and as they continue to develop, you know, he should get a lot more opportunities this year. So I agree. He is he's one of those guys who seems to be more effective when he's comfortable, and he seems to like Toronto. So I think it's a great call.
So, we've got Iglesias, we've got Giles. I believe, Chappy, it's now your turn to throw a call. And let's do 3 each. How's that? 3 each. Now
That's good.
You're on number 2. Take your best shot.
Listen, this is going to be a shocker, right? But I'm gonna sell an argument to you, and I want you to hear me out. Okay?
I'm always on your side.
So, this next guy, his numbers are terrible. But I'm a big believer, and just like you said about environment, these pitchers that sign halfway through the season, especially someone who's in the role, as important as the last inning of the ball game, it really is important for these players to come in and be a part of the team in spring training and get their arms warmed up. I'm talking about Craig Kimbrell. I know his numbers stunk last year, but if you look at this guy throughout his career, his guy's been nothing of the numbers that he gave last year, and only effective for his entirety of his career. His career ERA is 2.08. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has over 345 saves, and loves the big-time moments. So I really love Craig Kimbrell this year, and although I feel the Cubs are going to be not as good of a team, I really look for this guy to step in and be the rock that they thought that they were getting midway through last season.
I buy. As I'm looking at the list, I made notes, and although fantasy baseball is all about numbers, you can't always go from one year to the next and think just because he did this last year, he's going to do it next year. I mean, Mookie Betts is a great example of that offensively last year. Look how he declined from 2018 to 2019. And I take the opposite approach. I agree with you, Chappy. I like him too, and I like the fact he's now had a year to settle in. He's had an off-season to prepare. He'll have a spring training to get ready. And I think so many fans, not you and not me, so underestimate the importance of a full spring training.
Exactly. And you're talking about a guy who has been nothing short of dominant. He'll play this year at 32 years old. That's really, if you think about it for a pitcher, that is pretty much peak age. I look for him to have an extremely successful year this year.
Now, Lenny is just, I don't know if you heard Lenny from Long Island call into my show this morning. Yeah, that was pretty.
I did, indeed, yes.
And Lenny from Long Island, he's in the chat room, and he's just thrown a name up. I'm not buying this one. We'll be brief on this. Don't count this as my number 2. But he says, Edwin Diaz, ? God, he scares me to death.
Give your take first, Arnie.
No, you're up. He scares me. I just said it. That tells you right there I don't want him.
I'll tell you.